Let's talk about the difference between Katrina and Rita, which you write about, the two storms that hit very similar places in the Gulf of Mexico with very different results.
Yes, there's a piece of research I look at in the book, which is about the role played by ecosystems in helping to protect property and life from the effects of extreme events, whether that be the impact of storms hitting coastal areas, the effect of tsunami waves, or indeed the effect of inland flooding, and how all of these things are to a large extent reduced in the risk that they pose through natural habitats. And the comparison between the impacts of Rita and Katrina is a very good example of this, in the extent to which one storm caused something like $85 billion worth of damage, led to tremendous misery in New Orleans, killed about 1,000 people, and really delivered a terrible blow to a large area of the United States, whereas a very similar sized storm, which hit 3 weeks later to the west, admittedly hitting an area with less dense population, but nonetheless hitting an area where there was property and people living, and caused 7 deaths and minimal damage. And the principal difference between the effects of these two storms was the state of the coastal wetlands where they made landfall, with the wetlands around New Orleans being heavily degraded, with deep ship canals being cut through, whereas Rita came ashore in an area where the coastal wetlands were pretty much intact, and about 90% of the storm surge power was reduced by those wetlands as the storm made landfall. And you see a similar pattern repeated in analysis around, for example, the effects of the 2004 Asian tsunami, the one that hit on Boxing Day after that earthquake beneath the Indian Ocean. That sent a shockwave across many countries, from East Africa right through to Thailand and Malaysia. And the damage caused was much more serious in those places where the coastal mangrove forests and the coral reefs had been degraded. And in some places, the coral reefs were removing 90% of the energy in the waves before they hit the coast. And that, essentially, I describe in the book as a kind of an insurance policy, keeping those wetlands intact. You may not need them, and hopefully you never will need to protect yourself from a tsunami wave. But if you do, having those kinds of natural habitats in place is a very good way of reducing the risks that people face.